Where'd you get these two guys from?
Hello and welcome along to another episode of the Attacking Sport podcast. It's Daniel here, joined alongside me by my brother Sean.
How's it going?
And first, Sean, a bit of breaking news there last night. Diarmuid Connolly retiring. First, your thoughts on him as a player, and I guess it was a bit of a surprise with the news.
Yeah, we saw Colm Kavanagh came out announced his inter-county retirement. So I'd say with everything that's happened with lockdown and people probably just reevaluating their thoughts. But no, Diarmuid Connolly was one of the best players I've ever seen, and probably the best player I've seen play for Dublin, the most talented, the most skillful, and some of the performances you think back on and you just go, wow, how good was he? And we probably lost him for a few years at his prime. Everything that happened and him going over to Boston for a couple of years and maybe just falling out with Jim Gavin or whatever, and it just not quite working. But he was unbelievable at his peak. And probably if you think about how lauded Colm Cooper is in GA circles, Diarmuid Connolly's not really treated in the same respect for whatever reason. But he was certainly as good, if not as at the level of Colm Cooper was.
Absolutely. And I guess what Colm Cooper and Diarmuid Connolly have is they needed and won the Footballer of the Year award. It's a bit mad, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you think about how skillful they both were. You think now about David Clifford, and everyone knows about David Clifford's skills. And, Diarmuid Connolly and Colm Cooper were able to do that. And they were, at an era where defensive football was at its peak. And, you needed that skill to break it down. You think, there's lots of talk about Colm Cooper. Did he do it? And, some people say, did he do it against when the gone went tough? But he was there for inter-county career of about 11 or 12 years. And in the end, injury just put pay to it. But you think of Diarmuid Connolly, some of the scores he got, you look back at Dublin Donegal, and in that first 10 minutes in that semi-final when Dublin just blitzed them, and the likes of Paul Flynn, and Diarmuid Connolly played such a big role on that side. And even if you go back to Dublin over the last 10 years and the decade that made them so successful, Diarmuid Connolly's blueprint is everywhere in that team. He was so influential, even last year coming on, and the roar he got from the hill. And I think it's a good way for him to retire, 5 in a row. But he looking back on an inter-county career that spanned, more than a decade, he'd be slightly disappointed with a couple of years in between where he just did not play as much or as well as he could have done, and that's a real shame, because we were left without him, and we were left without seeing him, because he's such a huge player, and to come from the stock he did, to come from St. Vincent's, Dublin's arguably probably Dublin's biggest football club, it's a real shame that it kind of ended the way it has. But unbelievable player, and I'd say probably the most skillful, if not the best player I've seen play for Dublin. Yeah,
a lot of people go along with that. I guess the timing of it is just before the inter-county season is a bit odd. I guess he had a lot of time probably to think. You mentioned Colm Kavanagh there. He cited that behind closed doors, COVID and a bit of priorities take over. Do you think this is part of Diarmuid's decision, or do you think it's more maybe to do with the new management team, and he doesn't see himself playing under Dessie Farrell?
Yeah, I'd say the latter there. I'd say he's probably talked to Dessie Farrell and found out what Dessie would have thought of Diarmuid. And I think winter football mightn't just please someone as much as a Sunday in August playing against Kerry in a packed out Croke Park. So those kind of things would have probably affected his decision making. But maybe I think Dessie Farrell and him would have sat down and probably discussed the future, and it just at the moment Diarmuid Connolly's 33. Diarmuid's the kind of player you need to build a team around, and Pat Gilroy did that, and he was so successful. And you think of that Tyrone quarter-final, I think it was 2010, and Diarmuid ran the show. That's in All-Ireland where Diarmuid was at his peak, and we lost to Cork in that semi. And if we win that semi, go into an All-Ireland final, Diarmuid probably gets player of the year. And it's those kind of things where
a couple of things didn't quite happen towards
the end. And you look at how someone might be portrayed, and you think of Michael Darmacoli winning player of the year, and does that affect Diarmuid Connolly because he didn't win it? I'm not sure it does, because I think Dublin fans appreciate really skillful players, and it's kind of in Dublin's DNA, down the years, the likes of Jimmy Keaveney and Bernard Brogan Senior, and they're just kind of building in towards Diarmuid Connolly. He's certainly up there as one of the greats of Dublin GA, and whether other people around the country appreciate him as much, it doesn't matter.
I think so. I think they will.
Yeah, I think looking back now, and when these highlight reels come out of Diarmuid Connolly, I think everyone will. But in Dublin GA circles, he's highly regarded, and definitely a legend of Dublin GA, and probably the best, if not the best, of the last 10 years. And when you think about players, that Diarmuid could do it all, left foot, right foot. You know, he played deeper in his career at the end. You know, he was full forward at the start of his career and bursted onto the scene as a 21-year-old. And, you know, he's had a long career, and he'll have a happy retirement. And who knows, hopefully one day you might see him back in Dublin GA.
Absolutely, and we wish him well in retirement. So last week we had a segment on the Premier League predictions, and it was a bit of a popular segment, so we decided to expand it out. It was Winner Stays On, and we're delighted to welcome firstly the winner of last week's. He's just cheering there for the YouTube. And we've also got the challenger, Shane Sexton. So James, the Spurs fan, and Shane, the United fan, welcome to the podcast. How are we?
How you doing, lads? Great to be back.
Thanks for having me on. Good to be here. Looking forward to taking on Jim.
Congratulations, Jim. It was in doubt there at one stage. I think Keane was up on you, and then you sort of nicked it at the end.
No, it's great to be back. I had Leeds 1-0 and then Bamford scored in the last minute. Not much competition from Keane, to be honest. He only got one result altogether. So easy enough win. Straight next, then I'll see you after the international break, lads.
Yeah. So this is a big one because it's 2 weeks to even like a week off. And then you're like, you've 2 weeks as champion. It's a bit of a lot of people have been messaging to want to take you on, Jim. But I decided to seek out, and we pushed the boat out, and we got Shane. So
yeah, a week to prepare. That's what I think it is now.
So 3 points for correct score, 1 point for correct result. The last week was I think we had a 5-3, Jim. In the end, maybe 6-3.
Yeah, I think it was 5-3. Yeah.
Yeah, so we want to have a small bit of improvement this week. So yeah, looking for the Premier League, lads. It's been a great and interesting start with lockdown football and all. We're going to start with the Chelsea Crystal Palace game. I guess we'll go to you first, Jim. I guess Frank Lampard under a small bit of pressure after a 3-3 draw, and then the Carabao Cup exit to your beloved Spurs.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about Chelsea, really. They've got all these new players in, but I still have the feeling they're kind of missing something, you know. Werner isn't really a striker, and they've been relying on him for goals. Lampard keeps on moaning about everything. He's always giving out about something. Palace have been good, though, and we're unlucky against Everton. I think I'll go for 3-1 to Chelsea for this one.
Okay, 3-1. Shane?
Yeah, I think this might go a little bit differently. I think Chelsea have a massive problem there at centre-half. They had Thiago Silva as captain, and the captaincy lasted all of 45 minutes. I just think Palace are very well drilled. Frank doesn't seem to know his best team. They look shaky at the back. I think Chilwell will come in this week, but I think Palace will get a 1-1 draw.
Exactly. Crystal Palace have a really good record away against the big teams. You think you've beaten Manchester United, beat Manchester City last year, and we've actually spoken a lot on the podcast about that. What is Chelsea's best midfield? He took Jorginho out, and Chelsea just could not play in that first half. So I agree. I actually agree with you, Shane. I think Crystal Palace will cause some problems. It's a huge game for Chelsea. They can't afford not to win, you know, and there's a lot of talk about all the different players. Are they gelling? You know, losing in midweek doesn't help, especially on penalties and everything that happened. So it's a big game for Chelsea. I would not be surprised, like Shane said, for Crystal Palace to put up a really good show.
Well, Shane, on that, so what is Chelsea's best midfield what are you going to do with it? You got Kante, Kovacic, Jorginho, and then up front, then you've got, do you play Timo left? Do you play him up front? Or?
Ross Barkley's moved to Villa on loan as well.
We'll touch on that in a minute.
I think you have to play Kante, but you have to play him in sort of that centre defensive mid-row that he did so well at Leicester. I don't know about this box-to-box lark up and down. Like he'll get into the final third, and then he'll just turn around and pass it, and they start again. Werner, I think he'd be better through the middle. He's trying to bring in Abraham and Werner on the left, but I think he's just more an out-and-out striker. Then obviously, you know, they've got Pulisic and Ziyech to come in. I think they'll be a serious force when they do gel, but I just can't see them gelling this week, and I definitely think Palace are going to pick up a point.
Well, Jim, just on in terms of the positives for Chelsea, Mendy played in midweek. He should start on this weekend, and Ben Chilwell got a bit of the game time as well. What you expect him to win? You expect him to gel a little bit quicker, or do you just think against Crystal Palace they'll just have enough to get over the line?
I don't think, when I saw Mendy against Spurs there the other night, I didn't think he was that good at all, to be honest. He's kind of dodgy with high balls and stuff like that. He is tall now, but
very tall, isn't he?
He's like 6'5" or 6 or something like that. He's massive. And Ben Chilwell, I don't know. I think he's a bit of a pony, to be honest. I don't really rate him. You know? There's a way better left backs in the league than Ben Chilwell. You know,
2 of them at Spurs, then.
Well, definitely one. That Regulon guy, unbelievable player. I'll get on to him later then.
I always think with fullbacks, and you look at how quickly Leicester have been able to replace Chilwell with Castagna. They've got what's his name there?
Justin.
Sorry. And then you've got Ricardo, who's on loan. So you think of the business Leicester did there to get, that amount of money for Chilwell is huge for them. But I still think he's a really good player, still young enough, and good signing for Chelsea. Not too bad business for Leicester in the way they've replaced him.
Yeah, so listen, we'll move on to that. That's predictions number 1. Everton Brighton is up next. Go to you first here, Shane. I guess you can't help but be impressed with Everton. James Calvert-Lewin got a hat-trick last night. Richarlison as well. What are your thoughts on them going forward? And at home to Brighton, where do you expect that result to go?
Yeah, I mean, Everton have really sussed the midfield this year with Doucouré and Allen, and then James obviously pulling the strings, and then Calvert-Lewin getting another hat-trick. He's in serious form, and Richarlison as well. So there's a lot of positives there for Everton. I think they'll score a lot of goals this season. I can see them scoring a lot of goals against Brighton, but then again, Brighton playing well. Graham Potter has been playing really good football. I expect Brighton to score a few as well, but I think Everton will just nick it. Another sort of entertaining game that Everton will be involved in, and go 3-2 Everton.
Yeah, as you were saying, I was like 3-2. 3-2 Everton's coming. 3-2
Goals,
Everton's great build-up.
goals.
Yeah. Jim, thoughts on that 3-2? First of all, Everton, Brighton, and where do you think it's going to go?
I went 4-1 to Everton. I just think Everton have been so good. Don't know what's going on at all. Your man, new guy, Allen, is so good. He just retains the ball so well. Brighton were very good against United last week, to be fair. They hit the post so many times and were unlucky by an outrageous decision. However, I think Everton are going to win this one, to be fair.
The problem most people have with Everton is you don't know what they're going to get in terms of their defence, because you've got Jordan Pickford in goal. If Brighton get a couple of goals, soft
Luca
goals.
Dean played centre-back last night.
Yeah, exactly. And Ancelotti knows it's a problem. He's a very experienced manager. But whether they have the funds at the moment to get rid of Pickford, I'm not too sure. But like I said, Everton are flying. Calvert-Lewin up top, James Rodriguez, and around Seamus Coleman doing very well all right back. So Everton are everyone's team that are kind of watching. Although if you listen to Roy Keane, he doesn't think Everton are going to do well this season, I don't think.
Well, yeah, you just say you don't win anything after 3 games. He just thinks of Everton and Arsenal, any team that's doing well, as their reputation is opposed to the team. Last thing on Brighton, Lamptey's been actually linked with Bayern Munich recently. What's your thoughts, Shane, on that back 5 that they had against United? Because obviously they're up against your team, and overall I thought Brighton were the better team, even though they ended up losing 3-2.
Yeah, he's obviously a serious player, but I think like the likes of Fernandes and Greenwood up against March and Lamptey, like they've no interest in marking at all. Like even for March's goal, like Fernandes is just looking at him. But Fernandes always knew there was a late penalty coming, so we'll let him away with it.
Listen, we'll move on to Leeds City and you, Jim, next. Yeah, where do you think this is going to go? Like, all I'm looking at this game is goals. Like, are you thinking along those lines, or where do you think it's going to go with this game?
I think it's pretty too. I think City are just a disgrace. They spent like 400 million on defenders since Pep came in. Now, I don't know what they're thinking, what they're expecting from Nathan Ake. I don't know how they think he'll be good enough. They should be going for the Champions League and Premier League, and they're signing a relegated centre back. Leeds saved me last week, to be fair, with the 1-0 win. That's the reason I'm here today, Dan. But I just think City will be just way too much for Leeds. Their defense, I don't think Leeds' defense is really good enough.
So what score did you go there? Sorry, you just broke up.
3-2 to City.
Shane?
Yeah, I can see where Jim's coming from, but I think Leeds are, the most exciting team to watch at the moment. They seem to have a sort of strange formation that they play. It's very offensive. It's great to watch. I think they're going to cause City a lot of problems. City conceding 5 goals against Leicester. You can't blame Guardiola for going out and spending 65 million quid after watching that display. So I have Leeds 2-2 here. I think they'll get a result. I just think City, they're still a bit shaky at the back. I know Laporte played, but will he play again at the weekend? Who knows? And if they go with Ake and Garcia or Ake and Stones, I just think they can be got at. So I think an entertaining 2-2 draw for me.
Yeah, the one thing about Pep Guardiola is you rarely see him lose 2 in a row like that. Normally there's a performance that comes out after a big loss, and he would have been humiliated by that performance on the weekend, and the way Leicester just cut them open so often. So it's going to be probably one of the games of the weekend. And moving on next, we've got Newcastle United Burnley on Saturday night. Jim, Newcastle Tottenham was an interesting game last weekend.
I mentioned Dan straight after to get me on the podcast for a rant. Whoever from FIFA or UEFA made that handball rule. The fact that was a penalty last week was a big disgrace I've seen since Shane here won Player of the Year for our old Celtics team. That they were absolutely useless. They had 1 shot on target and it was a penalty. To be fair, Lloris probably should have saved it, but they were awful. for the whole game. They just bring on Andy Carroll there for the last 10 minutes and just hump the ball up to him. To be fair, Burnley are a bit all over the place as well. I think Newcastle won this 2-0. Pretty easy.
Yeah, I thought Newcastle were great against Spurs, to be honest. Spurs lucky enough to get a point. No, but in fairness to Newcastle, they've had 3 shots this season. They've scored 3 goals, so they're efficient anyway. But I can't say I'm really looking forward to this game. Burnley don't have much going forward. Barnes is a big miss. I know he's sort of back in training, but I don't know if he'll feature on the weekend. You know, Burnley are always sort of solid enough at the back, but I don't think they've got too much going forward. Newcastle, again, that sort of huff and puff. I think it's going to be a boring 0-0 draw.
There's actually a few teams you'd really worry for because of the start of their season. One of them's Burnley. Another is Sheffield United, but Sheffield United you'd hope would get out of that. But Burnley at the moment, they lost 4 or 5 players out of contract. Sean Dyche just doesn't seem to be getting on with the owners at the moment, and it's a huge problem for them, and they're in a bit of a rut here.
He didn't make a sub against Southampton, so obviously that was a message to the board to say, look, give me players. So we're moving on to Sunday's games. A couple of games at 12 o'clock. This is because the internationals are from next week on, so there'll be no games on Monday. So we'll start off Leicester, West Ham, 12 o'clock. Leicester's 5-2 win, which we touched on, Jim. How do you reckon this game will go against the West Ham team that also had a great win? Yeah,
nobody expected Leicester to beat City by so much last week. They were so good. Jamie Vardy I think he's just one of the most underrated Prem history for me. I think he's right up there with Aguero and Kane right now for best strikers in the league. The second goal was like Messi-esque. West Ham were quite good against Wolves last week. They won 4-0 to be fair to them, but they did get hammered by Everton there in the Carabao Cup. So I think it'll be 3-0 to Leicester for this one, Dan.
Okay, Shane?
Yeah, similar enough stance to Jim on this one. Leicester are scoring goals for fun at the moment. Something like 12 goals in 3 league games. I was shocked there watching West Ham and Wolves to think that was I actually watching West Ham, but I think Leicester will be too strong for them on the weekend. So I'm going Leicester 3-1.
Okay, and Sean, you want to come in there?
Yeah. But the thing about Vardy is he's just unbelievable. But he's the kind of player that you need to build the team around and suit the team to Vardy. And that Leicester team just suits him down to the ground and has done for 5 years. They just use all his pace and use what he's good at. And him winning the penalties just showed you he's got that class, and his finishing is just unbelievable now, and he's a Premier League legend.
Because probably we don't talk enough about Leicester, and considering the great start they've got. Shane, quick word on them. Will they find it tough when the Europa League group stage comes around? They had a great start. Suddenly you're looking at them, maybe they could challenge for top 4 again, but they do have that European football in the background.
Yeah, they probably will. I'd like to see them sort of prioritise the Europa League, try go out and win that. It's probably their best route into the Champions League. I think, they'll probably will play their stronger team for the league. But I think the Europa League, they should put all their eggs in that basket and really, really give it a good shot. Win a trophy, European trophy into the Champions League would be an unbelievable season.
Jim, just on that point, with Wolves last year, obviously had a quarter-final. Your own club, Spurs, you've had a lot of experience in the Europa League. How do you prioritise both the league and the Europa League? What's the best route?
I have a lot of experience in the Europa League. I don't think you really can for Europa League, to be honest, because all those Champions League third place teams come straight in after the last 32. You don't know who's going to come in. Like Atletico Madrid be coming in, Borussia Dortmund coming in, the odd time Roma. All those random teams come in. I don't really think you can prioritise it.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I guess the problem is if they prioritise Europa League and then get knocked out, then they've ruined their chances of the league. Like.
The one thing Leicester do have going for them is their recruitment over the last 4 or 5 years, and even stretching back to their title-winning team is unbelievable. You think of how well Castagna's done when he's come in, Ricardo last year. There's only a couple of signings you think like Slimani that didn't work. They paid big money for him, but every other signing for Leicester just seems to work. They seem to have that down to a T, and they can afford to let likes of Chilwell go or Madison goes. The only worry for them this year is if Vardy gets injured, what happens? And Rodgers will be praying and hoping that Vardy doesn't get injured.
It's probably the one position they don't really have that experience. So moving on to Southampton, West Brom. West Brom left 2 points behind them there last week. You feel, how do you think this game's going to go, Jim?
The fact that West Brom didn't win that game against Chelsea last week was a disgrace. They'll definitely go down. Them and Fulham are guarantees. Put all your money on that right now. Southampton's going to win this 2-0. West Brom, useless.
Shane?
Yeah, I wouldn't say West Brom are useless. I mean, they still drew 3-3 against Chelsea. But yeah, like their heads have to be down after being 3-0 up and only getting a point against Chelsea. Yeah, I think both sides are decent enough going forward, but a bit suspect at the back. I have Saints 3-1.
Yeah, I think there's going to be goals as well. You'd think of the quality West Brom have. Southampton have made a change. They brought Vestergaard in at the back, got rid of Stevens. I wonder if they'll keep that on Sunday, because that just seems to give them a little bit more edge at the back, a little bit more rigidness to deal with it. But West Brom have players going forward. I would expect a few goals.
Yeah, like I felt with Southampton, a big fan of them pre-season. Watched the Burnley game. I felt they were more papering over the cracks as opposed to kicking on the form. Quick word on Dara O'Shea, Sean. He didn't get into the Ireland squad. Probably a little bit disappointed, would say, with that overall.
Yeah, but you'd rather see him play for the 21s rather than be on the bench. And there's a few players like that. Jason Malumbi now, well, last night against Manchester United, and you want to see him kick on now, but he's still making the Ireland squad, so hopefully we can see him play. And there's a real group of young lads in under 21 age playing in and around the Premier League, so you want to see the more and more starts they have, the better.
Wolves, Fulham then. We're going to go to you first, Shane. You sat down, you watched West Ham Wolves, you were shocked.
Yeah.
Are you going to forgive Wolves?
I am going to forgive Wolves. Like, I was shocked, but I think Wolves are quality. Just say they had maybe a bad night at the office, but like if ever there was a team you'd want to play after a bad loss, it'd be Fulham. To put into perspective how bad Fulham are, I reckon Jim could score a couple of goals against them. Like, they're just truly awful at the back. So I think Wolves will kick on. Nuno won't accept what happened last week, and they're going to come out all guns blazing. I'd say 4-0 to Wolves.
Wow. Jim?
Yeah, I went 3-0 to Wolves. I agree with Shane. The Fulham centre-backs are absolutely useless. They have the same centre-backs they got relegated with in the Premier League a couple of years ago, so I don't know what the board are thinking there, how they're going to be able to do it again. I love Scott Parker, but I just don't think there's any chance they won't be playing Championship football next season.
The director of football came out during the week or after the Villa game in the immediate aftermath saying they tried to sign 4 or 5 centre-backs this year. A couple of them got COVID. A couple of the transfers just didn't work. And when your manager as well, Scott Parker, is saying there's just not enough togetherness at the back. They're not good enough. I think it kind of spells trouble. And going forward, they look really poor actually as well. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Wolves rack them up against Fulham. Although it's a funny Premier League, you never know. You don't want to say too much.
It's a universal, everyone writing them off. Like, you never know. It depends. This big week is big for them if they can get a couple of defenders in. But one thing on Wolves, it's the first time they conceded 4 goals in over a year in the Premier League. So Nuno would have to be a small bit worried on that. Yeah,
exactly. And a really uncharacteristic performance on Wolves. They're normally so good, so relentless. And you'll be slightly worried considering there's no Europa League. But, interesting to see how Wolves bounce back. But like Shane said, a brilliant game for them to do so.
Okay, so we're moving on to another game at the same time. Arsenal, Sheffield United. We're going to go to Jim first.
Oh, don't get me started on Arsenal. They have the French Darren Brent in Lacazette up top, the Gabonese Abanglahor and Aubameyang, and a 72 million Jorginho and Pepe. And Pepe is so bad that they don't play Aubameyang in the right position. And instead they're playing Lacazette there, who honestly wouldn't look out of place in a 5-side with us lads. Problem with Sheffield United is I think everybody's got them sussed after last season though. So I think I'm not going to be biased here. I'm going to go 2-2.
You thought it was set up for a 2-1 win or something. Shane, thoughts on that? And then what are your thoughts on the result?
That'll be Jim's downfall. Like, he just hates Arsenal so much. Yeah, like I think Arsenal, they did all right against Liverpool. I think Liverpool they were on it there on Monday. But they did all right. They stuck in the game. Even went 1-0 ahead, even though you never really thought they were going to win the match. But from a Sheffield United perspective, they really should have got something out of the game against Leeds. They missed a lot of chances. The Leeds goalkeeper made some great saves. You'd be a bit worried about them. They've lost 3 on the bounce now in the league. I can't see them winning this game. I think Arsenal will just be too strong for them at home. I reckon Arsenal will win 3-1, and I reckon Aubameyang will score a hat-trick just for James.
But the one thing, you'd be worried if you're an Arsenal fan with Sheffield United are dual results. They beat Arsenal last year, and you'd really think Arsenal might struggle to break them down. 5 at the back. Sheffield United are going to play a lot more rigid and defend their box and probably defend the point they have. So it'll be interesting to see if Arsenal do break them down.
Chris Wilder has a tough run of fixtures. Actually, it's Arsenal, Liverpool, City and Chelsea for the next 5. Quick word on that with Arsenal's back 5 against Sheffield United's back 5. Do you think Arsenal go back to the back 4?
Yeah, I think for these games they have to, because they're just at the moment they're still kind of struggling to get out and sort of get the ball in and get players in advanced areas, in the whole sort of the role that Ozil played for years. And I'd be slightly worried. I think Sheffield United are going to cause them a lot of problems, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Sheffield United go away with a point.
If viewers and listeners can forgive me, we're going to leave United Spurs to last. That's the 4:30 game. We're actually going to go on to Villa Liverpool 7:15. Jim, you mentioned Liverpool were good. What were your thoughts on the match on Monday, and do you think they'll wipe the floor of Villa?
I thought Liverpool were quite good on Monday, except for that one mistake Robertson made. To be fair, they are an unbelievable team. To be fair, Mane should have been sent off. I thought that was a straight red.
Interesting.
It was weird that VAR didn't even look at it. He put the linesman was straight in front of the incident. So I don't know. It was a bit of a weird one.
It was one of those. I thought it was one of those 50-50 ones. What did you think, Sean?
I think it's one of those, because the linesman sees it straight in front of him. I don't know how he doesn't give a red, and it's kind of one that if the linesman doesn't see and player bans and VAR come back, I think they give a red card, and I just think it's one of them. But no, Liverpool were really strong, and would you fancy them, Jim?
Yeah, I think Liverpool win this 3-1. To be fair, I'm a big fan of Martinez. I think I'd take him at Spurs straight away, to be honest.
Wow, over Lloris.
Yeah, well, Lloris has been good since Jose came in, but I just think Martinez is unbelievable. He dropped the ball once there in the last game against Fulham, but I think he's very good. So I think that's Liverpool 3-1, easy enough.
Shane?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have the same result here. I think Villa look good though this season. They've made some really good signings, with Watkins and Martinez as well, as Jim has touched on. Yeah, I think just going back to the match on Monday with the Mane elbow, it's just different rules there for Liverpool. So handball is for Jota as well, but sure, look, we won't mention that. But yeah, I think Liverpool just be too strong. 3-1, but I think Villa will be all right this season.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Shane. I think if Villa can just get ahead of that relegation battle and put themselves out, I think they've invested really well. You think of Watkins, Martinez, but the re-signings of Mings and Grealish, especially,
and John McGinn back from injury as well.
And that you talk about a balanced midfield. Louise, Hourihane, McGinn, and it gives that freedom to Grealish. And I think Dean Smith's doing a brilliant job considering where they were when he took over, that late run to the playoffs. And Villa are such a big club. They just need solidity in the Premier League. And I think Dean Smith and with John Terry can give it to them.
A quick one-word answers from everyone. Ross Barkley, good signing or not? Jim?
Good signing.
Shane?
Yes, good signing.
Do you think he's a good signing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, jeez.
Although you just wonder why Frank Lampard's got rid of him. That's the only thing for me. Is it his attitude? His face doesn't fit at Chelsea, but for Villa, brilliant sign.
It's just been interesting. He's had a couple of quiet years. So what we've all been waiting for here: United Spurs, Shane versus Jim, Ollie versus Jose. Like, I can build this up. I can keep building this up, but I will just go to Shane here. A bit more on the match first before we might leave your scores to the end. Shane, what are your thoughts on this match first going forward? Yeah,
big game. I think it's sort of a must-win for both sides. It's going to be Spurs' third game of the week. And Son's got a hamstring problem. And then, so who do they have? They've got Kane, and other than that, they're very ordinary. I'd be very disappointed if United don't win. United were bad, very bad against Brighton. I don't think we can be that bad again. I fully expect us to go on and win. Ollie he'll do the business, and he'll roll Jose's head at the end of the match, and Jose will be off down the tunnel, probably fuming, but happy days. We'll have the 3 points.
So before we'll get your score in a sec, Jim, what's your thoughts on the match?
Huge game, to be honest. United haven't looked great in either. Spurs, to be fair. Sonaldo will probably be injured, but to be fair, United will be playing Lindelof, so it sort of evens out. Spurs played against Chelsea on Tuesday and played in the Europa League on Thursday night. Bit of a disgrace, kind of. I feel like the FA kind of doesn't really care about how English teams do in Europe. They're more focused on their Carabao Cups and their FA Cups. Players get injured too much. It's not great at all. United aren't good. If Solskjaer was an United legend, I think he'd be already nearly gone, to be fair. Their defence is shocking. Luke Shaw is gigantic. Maguire should be in jail. And Lindelof is crap too, No idea why they aren't going for a centre-back partner, Maguire. Instead, they're wasting all their time on Sancho. They've also had Donny van der Beek's agent going mad already, giving out. He's only been there 2 minutes. So that's going to be great for United. To be honest, I think it'll be a draw. Usually it is 1-1. I think Harry Kane will score one, and then Rashford, who always scores against us, will be scoring.
And Shane?
Yeah, I think it'd be 2-1 United. Bruno, 2 dodgy penalties, and Jose would be fuming going back to London. Happy days.
It's going to be a really interesting game, and both sides have struggled, and they rely on the counter attack. And Spurs have lost a little bit of their deadliness in that sense, losing Son. So it's going to be a game really about who can win the ball in really good places, and a term used a lot nowadays in football is transitions. Who has the best transitions and who can hit them well on the counter attack? And it could be short, little 10-yard counter attack, but how deadly Manchester United are and Tottenham are in that sense. So it'll be a game of transitions, if you like. But no, I think a score draw I think it's a good shout by James.
Yeah, Sean, what are your thoughts on then the Oli Jose feud? We need more of that, don't we?
Yeah, you do. And it's weird because it's coming from two managers that are, kind of in similar positions, sort of under pressure, if you like, kind of needing a big season. Normally you see it from, if Klopp and Pep had to go at each other, two managers at the top of their game. So yeah, it's kind of a weird one. They both kind of picked a fight with each other, and it sets itself up. It's like two boxers trying to sell a fight.
Yeah, it is exactly
two managers that are probably not at the top, but probably want to get there.
It's working. That's all we're talking about here. Shane, any regrets on letting Jose go yet?
No, I don't think so. But he is a proven winner. I wouldn't be shocked if he went and won the Carabao Cup or something with Spurs and just went on and on about it for the next 10 years, because in the documentary he's adamant that he's there to win trophies. So I'd say there could be resting players there just for the Carabao Cup for the quarterfinals whenever that's on. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him win, but I think I don't regret him leaving. No.
Jim, do you think Jose will be a success at Spurs?
I think Jose will be a success. We've got a few good signings in the summer so far, and it looks like we're going to be getting Benfica striker Vincius, I think his name is. Apparently he's pretty good on FIFA, my brother told me. And if we get Skriniar as well from Inter Milan, I think we'll have a serious team. I think we're pushing with top three easy.
Your midfield looks a lot better. Højbjerg is a brilliant signing, I think, and Harry Winks them two are kind of solidifying themselves in there, and you must be happy with that, with Højbjerg signing, for example.
Yeah, Højbjerg's been very good. To be honest, I think our best midfield is Lo Celso, Ndombele and Højbjerg. Ndombele seems to be hitting a bit of form now, and he's been very impressive. He's very good against Chelsea, so I think if we get a bit of form into him, I think that's be like a new signing for us.
Oh, interesting. So one word answers from both of you now. Who's going to finish ahead of each other, Spurs or United? Jim?
Spurs.
Shane?
United, obviously.
Sean, we might as well get the neutral here in final vote from you. A tough one though, isn't it?
I think both sides will be playing for 4th or 5th. I'll go United just.
Okay, United just.
Yeah, just.
Well, that's it, guys. Listen, appreciate you coming on. Everyone, you can stay up to date on @Tackled Sport, social media, not just for all the latest episodes, but now you can keep track of Shane and Jim's predictions. We'll link their handles on all our stories, so you can send all the hate to them if you want to put accumulator back on the basis of their predictions. That's it for today's show, Sean. All that's left to say is goodbye from Sean.
Goodbye.
Goodbye from Jim and Shane.
See you, lads.
See you, lads. See you in a couple of weeks.
And listen, appreciate you guys listening, and we'll chat to you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
See you then.
I won't be what they want, 'cause I can't do what it says on my tin. So I sink myself into my thoughts, but they still say I don't do anything. And I'm lying again, 'cause I'm not content about going out and worrying nothing. And the things you said, they've already left my head. My mind's gone running. My mind's gone running. I want love, but I'm scared I'll have to give it away. I need a lift up sometimes to get me through my day. It's a pity she wiped the smile from my face. Come with me, I'll be glad if you took her place. It doesn't matter what you can be, the world's made up for you. So take advantage and be happy, 'cause life's too short, now we're talking again. And it feels so right, 'cause you're in my head every day and night. Then get me through my day. It's a pity she wiped the smile from her face. Come with me, I'll be glad if you took her place. It doesn't matter what you can be, the world's made up for you. So take advantage and be happy, 'cause life's too short, now we're talking again. And it feels so right, 'cause you're in my head every day and night. Then when it gets tough and I've had enough, I'll sleep off. 'Cause where we've been, we're just dreamers. You deceivers, better leave us alone, alone, alone. 'Cause where we've been, we're just dreamers. You deceivers, better leave us alone, alone. It doesn't matter what you can be, the world's made up for you. So take advantage and be happy.